I'm 45 years old. I've devoted 14,375 days to my body of work. My heart pumps iron, rep by rep. I'm building a life of fitness. I'm Chris Thompson. The way that I got involved into, I guess, the fitness industry and into fitness to begin with is probably the same course that almost everybody starts with. You know, in your adolescence sometime, it's driven by sports. You know, I played soccer, I played baseball, I played football, I ran track, and that was where I began to find that passion and enjoyment for myself in the challenge, you know, in the physical challenge. I got into business from there, followed my way into working for House of Seagram in the liquor business. It wasn't matching with what fulfilled me and made me happy to feel good, and I quit it all. I opened a gym and personal training business to get back to my roots. Now that hit for a lot of different loves for me. It was working with people, helping them get better. It was staying connected to it. It was now reconnecting to my own passions of training, you know, training myself and then challenge my ability to help other people challenge themselves. And it was while I was there that I had a client that I started with, and she was a sales rep for TwinLab. And she was telling me about her job, and I said, I don't know why I never thought of that. We started talking. She said, you should talk to my boss. And long story short, I talked to her boss, and I ended up selling my gym and training business. And this was in the 90s, and I went to work for TwinLab, and that was how I actually started. My own personal vision for the industry is that there is certainly a health side, right? There's a health and wellness side, and that part's been around forever. And then obviously there was an emergence of sports that became, and how can you use supplements to increase your performance? You know, whatever that is that you're interested in. And that's the part that's really grown and becoming more mainstream as it continues to grow. There's not a real solid trust to the foundation of what our industry is. And I think there are companies that do care about that and do the right things, but there's an awful lot of companies that aren't committed to the future of our industry. You know, I understand, and it's about a quick buck here and there, but you know, this is something I've been involved for 2 decades. You know, I work for a company that's been around almost 5 decades. I want this to be around 5 more decades. Come on, Chris. The mission and culture really of Muscle Militia is really twofold. For us, it's intended as a brotherhood. We're 3 totally different types of physiques with 3 totally different goals, and yet we share that same passion and that commitment. You know, we want to be at tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands, and we want it to be global, right? And we want it to have that ability. There's no boredom really in my life at this point because there's so many different places that my attention goes. Being at a time and a place where we are bringing back, you know, an iconic brand. I take that really serious. The challenge is that I have a lot of corporate responsibilities. You know, TwinLab is not just a little sports nutrition company. It's a global brand sold around the world, you know, with multiple channels that we sell our products in. And, you know, I have a responsibility across all of that. And then bringing in kind of my personal side to it then too, as living the lifestyle, training, you know, it takes a hell of a lot of dedication and commitment. You're going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're going to go train in whatever city you're in, or you're going to get your cardio at midnight. That's the challenge of having to marry all of this together, but it's also, you know, the beautiful opportunity that comes with it. So my philosophy, first of all, is be consistent. There's a lot of routines and programs and philosophies and thoughts that are out there that might be great, right? There's whatever it is, it works for somebody. And over time, you have to find what works for you and what you can continue and do consistent. I say that having done all of that, looking at the magazines back in the day and trying to copy what Dorian Yates' back routine was, that's not going to work for me for a whole host and variety of reasons. But you do learn from that. Whether it's form or function, the philosophy part comes into the fact that failure, complete failure, and then figuring out what that actually means. And it's through failure that we grow, literally, figuratively, metaphorically. I train by myself more than I train with partners. I'm thrilled anytime I get to train with my Muscle Militia brothers in Milo and Wheat. They're both way bigger than I am, way stronger than I am. You know, that gives you that person to kind of be competitive with in a healthy way, and they're motivating you and going, come on, you can do this, you know, step up, let's go. And you're like, okay, yeah, I can. The Muscle Militia training routine I've been doing pretty consistently now as my almost only routine for maybe 9, 10 months. And going to complete physical failure and moving as quickly as possible from exercise to exercise to exercise, getting through the whole body, hitting, compound movements. It's a high intensity training. It becomes very cardiovascular at that point. So these days, that serves as almost my exclusive cardio. I'll say it's given me great results. I think what the key is there is that you're not doing high volume. Right? You're doing one exercise to complete failure. I'm achieving better results, and I think some of that probably for me has to do with my diet is super consistent. I don't cheat, I don't vary. The diet that I stick to is based on my macro intake. For me, every meal is the same macros, 45 grams of protein, 40 grams of carbs, and 17 grams of fat. My carb sources aren't complex. They're all fruits and vegetables. My fat sources are oil-based, mostly coconut, also like olive oil or a walnut oil, or even when I'm traveling and I can't take oils with me, I'll use like walnuts as my fat source. The only time that really changes is if I am, prepping for something, when I lower my carbs. And as far as the number of meals, it goes by totally how my body tells me. One day can be 3 or 4 meals, and there can be days that can be 5 or 6 or 7. What I really like about that is it's gotten to a balance for me, and I feel like with the craziness that's in my life and the difficulty that already exists, to feel something that's balanced and not have to be something that's literally, no pun intended, force-fed, and or to the other side of being starving. Feeling starving of, it's very difficult. I'm dieting and I just want to eat more than anything, and I can't. There's nothing that I ever really craved until, of course, I'm cutting those carbs. Then things look good that normally wouldn't. I've kind of gotten addicted, if you will, to feeling good. And it makes me healthy too. My blood chemistry is really good. It's kind of funny that a lot of people get into fitness for health, right? Especially later in life, it's their doctor tells them, you need to start exercising. You need to clean up your diet. For me, I got into it for aesthetic purposes, and yet it had the kind of, inverse effect, which then my doctor said, wow, your blood chemistry is even better, or, your blood pressure is fantastic, or wherever you are. And I just noticed that I feel better, which is important when you have a hectic, challenging life. Obviously, I'm in the supplement business, so it's something I clearly believe in. I'm fortunate to have anything and everything at my easy access. I try to leverage that from a health standpoint. I've got a great macronutrient program that goes on, which is what's going to help me achieve my physical goals. But that's really, then half the battle. Getting to an age as well where you start to look to longevity, and we do put our bodies through an awful lot of physical demand. Getting those micronutrients into your dietary plan can make a great, difference and have benefits on both levels, health as well as performance. Of course, I do a multivitamin, CoQ10, things like alpha-lipoic acid. And then on the performance side to it, utilizing protein supplementation due to timing. My turnaround between whatever I'm doing, a meal and a meeting, can literally be maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And how am I going to get even to my macronutrients in that amount of time? But if you have a protein drink and you're sitting there and you're sipping on it, that doesn't interfere with anything you're doing. I couldn't live without pre-workouts, and then, fat burners / stimulants. The product that put Twin Lab on the global map that, everybody has a story on that remembers it is Rip Fuel. And so, Rip Fuel is this great thermogenic and stimulant, something that provides great mental focus. That's the type of pre-workout and stimulant that I like. I think supplementation, as you look at it, starts with really breaking down that word. It's a supplement. A supplement to what, right? It's a supplement to your life, and it's a supplement to, more importantly, your diet. It's saying that I can't get everything that I'm trying to get strictly out of my diet. And so I'm going to supplement that with these products, right? And we call it supplements. We take supplements. What subs are you taking, or along those kinds of lines. I mean, it's become vernacular into it. But it's really supplemental intake to my normal diet to help you achieve your goals. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes consistent, but perfect practice makes perfect. And so it is about doing it the right way with consistency. So whether that's your training, or that's your diet, or that's something completely unrelated, whether that's being, a spouse, or that's being a parent, or that's being a vice president of a company, or, whatever it is, wherever you want to apply that. Knowing what you need to do and how to do it is the first step to it. I'm Chris Thompson. If you have questions for me, you can find me on Body Space at Militia Muscle, on Instagram, and on Facebook at Chris Thompson Fitness. For more content like this, keep coming back to bodybuilding.com.